Hi, I'm Rahel Philipose and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show. In this episode, we talk about a political row over supplying free food grain in Karnataka. We also talk about a government regulatory body asking an OTT platform to take down its content. But first, we talk about food security in India. Over the last few decades, Punjab and Haryana have earned the reputation of being India's breadbasket. This is because they are known to be the most reliable producers of two very significant crops, rice and wheat. According to the Indian Express's Rural Affairs editor Harish Damodaran, there are three big reasons for this.
See, Punjab and Haryana had good irrigation facilities from the beginning itself. So the governments there had invested a lot of money in both canal irrigation and also electrification of tube wells. So therefore they had, number one, the infrastructure. Number two, they had markets. So there was a lot of investment in the mandis, the APMC mandis. And then plus you had farmers who were very entrepreneurial, very hardworking, and they were very open to new technology. So like when the new high yielding varieties, the dwarf varieties started coming in, they were willing to take it up.
And so while poor monsoons and heat waves can hamper crop production in other states, the assured irrigation that Harish spoke about has made these two states the country's most dependable source of wheat and rice. In fact, it was only after the Green Revolution in the 1960s, when the government started investing in technology to improve crop yields, that there was an increase in the production of wheat and rice in other states as well.
Because seeing the success of, what Punjab and others had done, this variety, the technology, the diffusion started happening, I would say, mostly during the 80s and 90s. And which happened in eastern India, it happened in Bengal, it happened in Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, in all these places.
And so over the last 2 decades or so, the central government started procuring these food grains from other states as well.
You can say that the new entrants who started contributing to the food security, especially in rice and wheat. So earlier it was Punjab, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. The new entrants were basically Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh very majorly, because Madhya Pradesh saw a lot of expansion in both the creation of mandi infrastructure as well as irrigation facilities.
And this is what for years has ensured India's food security. But Harish says that this year it's likely to be challenged.
So I'll say that this is the first year in a long time where we are now facing, I won't say shortages, but definitely there is rice and wheat stocks are very precariously balanced. Not much in wheat, because wheat we can somehow manage also because the global prices have come down from the peaks. Like last year, we know that wheat prices really skyrocketed because of the war. And we know that Ukraine and Russia together were supplying something like 40% of the world's wheat. So because of that, but now wheat, I think, is more or less kind of taken over. It is sort of stabilized. So I think in wheat, there is no problem. The problem is in rice, because in rice, the options to import are limited. Simply because India is the world's biggest exporter. We export something like 17 million tons of non-basmati rice and I think another 5 million tons of basmati rice. So a country which is the largest exporter, logically speaking, cannot become an importer. So rice is something which is a little precarious.
And one of the big reasons behind the rice shortage is that we are expecting a below average monsoon this year. All because of the El Nino phenomenon, which, like we have discussed in previous episodes, is a weather phenomenon that has a huge impact on monsoon across the world. With El Nino strengthening, we are likely going to witness a weak monsoon this year. And this is particularly concerning for India, one of the biggest exporters of rice, because Harish says that the cultivation of this crop is hugely water intensive.
It's as simple as that in many parts of India where there is no rain. If it doesn't rain properly, you forget about what is happening in the second half of June. If it doesn't rain properly in July and August, definitely in many areas, it will be very difficult to sustain rice cultivation, And rice, especially in the first 35 days, it needs a lot of water, If you go to a paddy field, you'll see that it's always flooded and you need to maintain flooded conditions for about 30 days.
He says that during this period, the rice crop needs to be in about 5 centimeters of water. And that is why a weak monsoon is concerning, which Harish says could also result in a shortage of wheat supply further down the line.
Because if the monsoon rains aren't good, your dams won't get filled properly. Your groundwater will not be recharged. Most of your rabi crops, that is the crops which are grown during the winter and spring, like wheat, they don't depend much on rainfall because there's not much rains which happens. Of course, there are some winter showers, etc., which are always welcome. But most of them, they grow using the groundwater. So if the rains aren't good, if the monsoon fails in July and August, so then that will have a bearing again on wheat as well. I mean, rice we know because it's not raining, so therefore it's a current crop. But it can also happen in the next crop.
And in such a situation, Harish says that we will be relying more heavily on what he calls our tried and tested all-weather friends, Punjab and Haryana. And this is largely because of the solid irrigation facilities available in these two states.
So Punjab and Haryana are in a position to deliver both rice and the coming wheat. So Punjab and Haryana can easily manage with 2 seasons of no rains, they can manage. So that is what investment in irrigation does, which has helped. I think Punjab alone has about 15 lakh electrified tube wells.
And Harish says that the government should keep in mind these erratic climatic conditions while making agricultural policies in the future.
I think the government or anyone should not be too adventurous when it comes to agriculture. See, agriculture by nature is a very conservative profession. It's a very conservative economic activity, right? I mean, because everything depends on rains. So definitely, I think Punjab and Haryana, they will continue to play a huge role in food security. So I think maybe this is a year, probably many policymakers probably may wake up. The fact is, when you have created this irrigation structure, right, and these farmers who can cultivate these crops, and these are very essential crops, right? I mean, India needs rice and wheat. If you don't produce garlic or ginger, okay, fine. I mean, bad for those farmers. But it's not that you're going to starve. And a country like India cannot afford to be a large importer of essential things like, rice, wheat, sugar. And probably, I think this is a year where I think the Punjab and Haryana farmers will have a laugh,
And next, we talk about a political row over supplying free food grain in Karnataka. Before the assembly elections in May, the Congress party had promised to supply 10 kgs of free rice under the Anna Bhagya scheme to families who are economically below the poverty line. Now, the central government was already providing 5 kgs of free rice to people in the state, and so this scheme is supposed to add 5 more kgs to it and benefit more than 4 crore individuals. But now, after the elections, the newly formed Congress government led by Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has been facing problems in implementing the scheme. And that has now turned into a political slugfest between the centre and the state. To know more about this issue, my colleague Utsa Sarmin speaks to the Indian Express's Kiran Parashar.
So Kiran, can you begin by telling us why the Karnataka government is not being able to implement the Anna Bhagya scheme?
So on June 14th, Siddaramaiah chaired a press conference where he accused central government of taking political decision of discontinuing the sale of rice and wheat from Food Corporation of India to state governments under its open market supply scheme. So what happens is Food Corporation of India sells surplus stocks of wheat, rice under this scheme at a predetermined price, and on June 12th, Food Corporation of India had agreed to supply food grains required to the scheme. However, a letter from Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution on June 13th discontinued the sale of wheat, rice for state governments except to northeast states, hilly states and states which are facing law and order situation, natural calamities. So it did not go well with the Congress here because the Congress termed it as a political decision, and also it said that it was a way to curtail state from procuring food grains for the state, which could have political repercussions.
And do we know why the Food Corporation of India stopped the sale of rice and wheat to the states?
So, see, according to Siddaramaiah, Food Corporation of India had agreed to supply rice at 36.6 rupees per kg. But what later came out from the Food Corporation of India was it was part of the market intervention program of Government of India to control the inflationary trends and to also rein in the rising price of wheat and rice in order to ensure that inflationary trends which are kept under control while ensuring adequate stock levels in the central pole. It was decided to exclude state government scheme from the ambit. So what Food Corporation of India claims is that it was not a sudden decision and it was not a deliberate decision. It had a long interministerial consultations, and also the decision was taken looking at the situation of entire country rather than one or two states. So this is how Food Corporation India tried to defend, whereas Siddaramaiah again leveled allegations that the central government was trying to scuttle to provide rice to the poor people, and he said that even it has been politicized despite the availability of stock with Food Corporation of India, and he said that they were refusing to supply. So in a way, keeping Lok Sabha 2024 elections in mind and with the present Karnataka Assembly elections result, the entire issue turned into a political slugfest.
Right, and talking about the political slugfest, the Karnataka government is also facing criticisms from the opposition BJP in the state. Could you tell us more about that?
So BJP in Karnataka has been demanding, which is principal opposition, is now demanding to implement all the 5 guarantees which the government had assured. BJP has gone one step ahead and asked. So in the manifesto, Congress had promised 10 kg of rice. Now in that 5 kg of rice is procured from the central government. Now they are demanding to provide 15 kg of rice to the public or to the BPL card holders. But at the same time, they are also demanding to implement all these 5 guarantees. Among them, which Anna Bhagya scheme is one of them. While the Karnataka is yet to explore, BJP is all set and preparing to hold several protests across the state. And also in the first stage, they also staged some protests in various towns of Karnataka. And at the same time, they are also pushing Congress hard that whatever the assurances or the promises that they made before the elections is just eyewash. They are trying to build that narrative, while Congress is trying to counter that again.
And Kiran, do we know how the state will procure the rice now?
So after this decision of Food Corporation of India, Karnataka has reached out to few of the rice cultivating states. Majorly, if you see, all these are non-BJP states. So they have reached out to Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab seeking rice. And now as we speak, Chhattisgarh has agreed to supply 1.5 lakh metric ton of rice to Karnataka. But that is also for a month. So now the state government has also approached National Cooperative Consumers Federation, National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation and Kendriya Bandar to procure rice. Also, very recently, Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah met Amit Shah. He expressed his concerns and asked to help from the center to implement the scheme. Also, Karnataka Food and Civil Supplies Minister K.H. Muniappa, he was in Delhi, and he also later said that there would be a slight delay in implementation of Anna Bhagya scheme in Karnataka. But he said that he would be very confident to implement this. At the same time, Siddaramaiah has also asked Union Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah to intervene in the matter and also to inform Piyush Goyal, who is the Union Minister for Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, to raise the issue.
Right, so as of now, the Anna Bhagya scheme has been delayed. But do we know whether people below the poverty line will get the 5 kgs rice that they have been getting from the central government?
So as of now, we are still unsure how the government is going to handle the situation in future. As we know, the government is likely to supply 3 kg of rice and 2 kg of food grains till they get a clarity or till they make some deals with other states. So a 3 kg of rice and 2 kg of food grains might be supplied to the BPL families in Karnataka.
And in the end, we talk about a government regulatory body asking an OTT platform to take down its content. Last week, the Digital Publisher Content Grievances Council, which regulates OTT platforms, for the first time asked a platform called Ullu to take down its content, saying that if they refuse to do so, the platform could face punitive action. To know more about the case, here is Utsa again speaking to the Indian Express's Divya.
So Divya, can you first tell us about this regulatory body, the Digital Publisher Content Grievances Council, and why was it formed?
Yeah, so it's an officially recognized independent self-regulatory body for online curated content providers, which we know as OTTs. And this was set up in June 2021. This was set up under the IT rules, which were notified in the February of that year. And those IT rules mandate that you have such mechanism to address grievances by general public, anything which can pertain to the content which is being shown on the OTT platforms or any digital medium. So it's basically a redressal mechanism, like a go-between between the OTTs and the public, so that the OTTs also don't have any ad hoc interventions on the streaming, and viewers can also have their grievances sent to somebody and passed on to the OTTs. It is generally headed by a retired Supreme Court judge, which is Justice Sikri in this case, and it also has representations from the OTT platforms and legal people and other eminent social people.
So this is the first time a body like this has been formed, right? Did we have any mechanisms to regulate OTT platforms before?
So earlier, if you had a grievance with the content being shown on any OTT or digital platform, you could either write to the OTT platform directly, or you could maybe, post online, which was an informal way to do it, or you write to the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, which regulates these platforms. But now there is a 3-tier mechanism. So first you write to the OTT. Under the IT rules, every OTT is supposed to have a grievance officer. So you write to the grievance officer. That person is supposed to address your complaint in the 15 days. If you're not satisfied with the redressal, then this is DPGCC is the second level. So then you go to DPGCC.
Right, and we're talking about this today because an OTT platform called Ullu got into some kind of trouble with them. Could you tell us what happened?
So one person called Satish Waghela, so he had stated that some of the web series which were being streamed on said platform, Ullu, they're contrary to the law of the land because he called them porn, and he said that they don't go with the IT rules which were notified in 2021. As the procedure goes, he had initially raised the matter with the platform itself, but he was unsatisfied with their response, and as per the order which we can see, Ullu has denied all allegations which were put by Waghela, and they had said that viewership is based on discretion, and they put the age recommendation on and only adults can watch the content, and they also cited freedom of speech and expression, which is enshrined in the constitution.
Right, and the body also recommended punitive action against Ullu. So tell us what that means for the platform.
So yeah, this is a first of its kind case where some action has been recommended on the platform, and this action is also very major because it pertains to taking down of the content, which is considered, which the council took grave objection to, calling it obscene and vulgar. And they said that it has to be taken down in the next 15 days as per their order. And if that doesn't happen, then further action can be recommended. So as per the IT rules, there are 3 tiers of redressal. So first is the OTT itself, which didn't work in that case. The second is the DPGCC, which has given its order. And if the platform doesn't adhere to the order, then the case goes to the oversight mechanism, where the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is also involved. And if they deem fit, they can even cancel the license of the OTT platform to operate.
And Divya, what kinds of concerns does this situation raise for OTT platforms?
Well, even though this case is about the vulgar content itself and the obscene nature of the content, and the DPGCC completely agreed with the complainant's, his representation. But this can also open up a Pandora's box when it comes to online content, because people can have subjective opinion about what is being shown, and they can have various kinds of complaints, all kinds of complaints. And if this kind of instance comes and more such instances come, then this can be very detrimental to the streaming industry, the OTT industry. But time and again, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and even the minister himself, Mr. Anurag Thakur, they have raised this thing about the content on OTT being vulgar, being abusive. I think earlier this year, they even issued an advisory to all OTT platforms to not stream anything which is, detrimental to national security. So these kind of concerns are coming up because the OTT industry is largely unregulated. What I can see from here is that maybe this is going towards some kind of fixed rules and regulations for OTTs. I think that is what we are headed for, like we have for films and for television. So the OTT industry, which has largely been unregulated till now, I think I can see some kind of regulations coming in from the government side.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Rahel Philipose, and written and produced by Utsa, Sarmin, Shashank, Bhargava, and me, Rahel Philipose. It was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.